everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
Have you taken a look outside lately?
Have I? I have got my face and my hands
awesome.
Pressed against the glass. I'm so excited.
For all of our international listeners, we're in the Midwest of the United States of America, which is generally covered in snow for like half the year.
More than half.
The snow is melting.
It's melting so quickly. I know.
There is something about spring, isn't there?
I am telling you what, my entire attitude feels different.
Yeah. I hear you. It is amazing how the season change can affect your mood, your being, your core. Like
everything.
It's deep. It's just deeper than being in a good mood. It's like down to your essence.
I know. It is. It totally is. This morning I woke up, I don't know, a little after 6 or something, and I looked outside, and our bedroom window faces east. Mm-hmm. And the entire sky was lit up orange and pink, and it was just, I wasn't expecting it, and I opened my eyes and I was like, wow. Like, it was so beautiful, and we could see the tops of the trees, and there's no ice and there's no snow and it's not gray.
Yeah.
And it just immediately put me in this like, how
That's
awesome is that?
So right before we hopped on, I talked to my mom.
Oh yeah.
And so we saw my parents last weekend up north, and everything again covered in snow. And it was miserable. It was like cold and snowy
right.
last weekend. And they, normally go to Florida for the winter, but they were kind of stuck up here.
Yes, because they were affected by the hurricane. They lost their home down there. Yep.
And so they were already kind of down from that experience. And then to have winter just continue on and on. And I think a few days before last weekend when we saw them, it had snowed like another foot or something.
Oh, I know.
Right? Like everything is still frozen
awful.
and buried.
Awful.
And just their like mood was just palpable about how sad. I mean, it was depressing.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
I talked to her an hour ago, and it's like she's a completely different person.
Aww.
1 week later, it's like she's like,
Mrs. Parker, you hang in there. You've had a hell of a winter.
The lake is melting and the snow is almost all gone, and
yes,
that sunshine. Wow, is it a powerful thing?
It is. Even for people who are naturally optimistic, that's me. Mm-hmm. I'm putting myself in that camp. You don't realize how much the warmth or the sunshine, or even if the day is icky, mm-hmm. Where you are in the seasons.
Yeah.
You know what's coming. And it is a completely different energy shift that happens than if you wake up in, say, October mm-hmm. or November. And it's a beautiful sunny day in October or November. You don't feel the same way as you feel when it is like glorious and warmer, like not even warm or hot, but just warmer. No ice, no nothing, right?
Yeah. There's for those of us that go through, it could be, I don't have experience with this, so I'd love someone to on Facebook or something to pipe up on their experience with with being in climates where there's less seasonality. Mm-hmm. But when you're in an a more extreme environment like ours, where the season change is really, really profound, boy, it has quite an effect on you. I mean, I love all of the seasons.
Me too.
But this springtime season, it's like so much optimism emerges from the winter hibernation.
Right. You know, I often talk about Fiona, my best friend that lives in Scotland, and she lives in the Upper Hebrides. So she's way up, right, on an island called Mull. And one of the things that we talk about every single year is...
Everything about what you just said sounds cold and wet.
Yes. And dark. Don't forget dark. So in the winter months, by 5 o'clock, it's pitch black there. By the winter months, by 5 p.m., it's pitch black. And it doesn't get light either till much later in the morning. And it rains, and it's sideways rain. And the winds, they call them gales, can be 60 even more miles per hour consistently. And she said at this time of year, the sun never hits her rooftop just because of the season. And she said she knows that the minute that sun hits her rooftop, she's made it.
Wow.
And it turns her around. Like just the attitude of, oh my gosh, we made it through another cold season. We made it through another rainy, cold time. And it hugely affects not only our moods, but it affects our energy. It affects our ability to get things done, right? Like all the things.
Yeah. Yeah, I always think like winter for me, it's like I hunker down and get a lot done, which might be true, but that also might just be kind of like a story I'm telling myself to just get through it. I'm not sure.
When you say get through it, do you mean like a bag of chips and really good salsa?
Next winter, I'm going to get like a JJ's productivity spreadsheet, and we'll track it through the whole year.
Okay,
just for you.
Thanks. We'll come back around to that.
Well, so what are you looking forward to now that spring has sprung?
Oh yeah.
What are you looking forward to in life?
Yeah. So I have two things that come to every single year at this time. I have two really big focuses that just present themselves to a point where I can't hardly think about anything else. The first one is traveling. I absolutely love traveling. And I usually go over to Scotland in the summer or do something like that. So I just get excited about planning all these weekends of great weather, being together, going to the cabin, going on an airplane trip maybe, or just a family trip. Like all of that stuff I get so excited about because you can still do it in the winter, but it's just not. It just doesn't feel the same. Not quite
the same. Yeah, what I heard you say is like you feel a bit more isolated in the winter.
Yes.
Right?
Precisely.
So in the summer, you're maybe interact with more people and have opportunities to like hang out socially more than you do. I think you can do that in the winter. I think you're just using winter as an excuse.
No, because you like all that snow stuff, like skiing and snowboarding. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to break my rear end, which I know I would do if I tried to snowboard. And, being at the ripe age of my mid-50s now, you just don't want to take on anything that could put you in a sling. That would be embarrassing at a, group event. But that's one. So travel is one.
Yep.
And the other thing is I love planting things. I love watching things come alive. I love flowers and plants and trimming bushes and making things look beautiful. And, in my garden, having little fountains with water or all of those things. I just love it.
Yeah. Well, so that sounds like an awesome hobby. And like you're not able, you're not able to do your favorite hobby when the entire ground is frozen and covered in feet of snow.
But those are the other two. Here's another weird one. I love the eating pattern changes in the summer.
Oh, how's that?
Because you get so much more fresh stuff in the spring and the summer. You know, you can, it's more readily available. You can get nicer fruits, farmers markets, you know, like just a lot of ways for you to be more healthy, even in what you're consuming. But along with that, there also is the more going out, eating and drinking more with people, socializing more. So I think also summer is also a time where if I'm going to gain a little bit of weight, it's probably going to be in the summer, which is weird.
It feels like it should be opposite, like when you're more sedentary during the winter.
Yeah. But I'm out, you know, I'm busy, you know, having whatever. Strawberry daiquiris or straight tequila, whatever, you know, just enjoying being and socializing more with some of my friends. So I guess those are three things. What about you? What are you looking forward to the most?
Well, you're right. I do a lot in the winter. So from like an activities perspective, I don't have like too much of a change. But the thing that I really like about spring and summer is the sunshine. You know, it's not like it's super bad here in Minnesota in the winter, although this past winter was so bad with sun. There's a lot of winters where it's like beautiful bluebird days, as crisp, cold and sunny.
Right.
But it was so dreary this winter, and
oh my gosh.
Having those sun rays hit you and having that vitamin D soak into your skin, it just like yesterday I just stood outside in the sun and just stood there. Like, this is nice.
Yeah, it's true. And, you know, especially this last year, I think was really, okay, first of all, there's been a lot of emotional stuff happening for people all last winter. You know, we just have had a number of political challenges, social challenges, which make it even harder. And then you're sort of trapped in your house. You can't really go do a lot of stuff. And I think here in Minneapolis, the average snowfall is like something like 29 inches or 28 inches, something like that.
We had the third snowiest.
Yeah, so it was in the 90s, right? 90-some inches of snow this year. So it's like, buried. Oh my God, right, everything's buried. And even after it's been warm for a little while, you're still seeing huge snow piles and that sort of thing.
You know what this snow melt did do for me this week? It reminded me that I had only half done one of the landscaping projects I was working on in the fall. So from that perspective, I was like, oh, it was nice that the snow covered up that half done work.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know.
But the idea for you, like you were talking about, of planting and having new things grow and rejuvenation, there is such a feeling of like rejuvenation in the spring and like opportunity. You know what I mean? It's just like I feel like a little plant too. Like we were just talking about, like I'm working on this new little software project, and it feels like a little sprout of a plant, and my optimism for spring and for my newest little art project you know, is just running over.
Right. Your cup runneth over. Well, I think too, you know, the thing is that like we're talking about how we ourselves feel about these kinds of things, but hey, how much easier is it to be around all of our coworkers, all of our peers, all of our friends when they're feeling like this too? Yeah. Because most people are feeling a higher level of optimism simply due to the sunshine.
It's contagious.
It is contagious. And I am so grateful that this is a contagious item that I actually really want.
The other thing I did this week is me and the leadership team, once a week, we get together and have lunch. Because we're primarily a remote company, but you know, it's still great to get together. And so we met downtown and we were walking to lunch, and I recorded us in the sunshine, walking on the street to lunch. And I told everybody in the company, hey, it's beautiful. Get your ass outside. Even from a work perspective, it's like everybody gets more productive, and all of the situations don't look so dire.
Right.
Just because of a little season change.
Yeah. You know what else I think too? I think that this is a really good time of year for people to, because I kind of do this, I think it's a really good time of the year to take your own inventory and decide what it is that you don't want to be or do or have anymore. And by summer, because that's like a couple months away or whatever, it's a good time in the spring to create a new way for yourself. It's like, is there something new that you want to, like, for example, for me, I've been eating like just terrible. I mean, it started way before Easter, if I'm completely honest. And I'm eating my body weight in sugar. Now, I look the same on the outside, but I feel
sugar,
rotten.
Yeah. It has an effect on your brain for sure.
Oh, heartburn, headaches. I don't feel good. And so I made a decision a couple days ago. You know what? That's it. I'm done. Like, I'm going to take this time right now through this spring to really focus on better eating habits. Like, I don't even care about the weight or anything like that. It's literally about eating better. And I always feel like that's kind of a good goal to go into summer.
Yeah.
You know, it's like having some kind of short-term goal that slides you into summer, because most everyone loves summer. Most everyone absolutely loves summer. And it's sort of that iconic vacation period of time that we've had since we were children, you know, and it's something to go for.
Yes, that's a good call out. Like, remember how fun it was in school when you were a kid, when springtime started rolling around and you knew like summer vacation is near?
Yes. Spring break was the catalyst for all of
spring
that.
break hits, and then it starts getting nice, and then it's like, when I look back at school, I don't remember. The fondest thing I can remember about school is like in high school, in the parking lot, in my car, while it's warm out. Like, I hardly remember what classes I took, but I do remember the feeling of like springtime.
Yeah.
At school, at school or after school, right? Or like elementary school, I remember like walking from the bus home down our block while like the water's, running down the street and everything's melting.
Yeah.
It's like we have these very strong childhood memories of this time.
Yeah, that's so true. I have never even thought of that before, but I do too. Like, I used to do fishing. We had a little pond a block from our house. And after school, I would take a little 5-gallon bucket and a glove, because I was scared to get poked by a sunfish, and a pole. And I would go down and catch little sunfish in this little. And I was so excited for the ice to come off of that, because I knew that they would be there for me as soon as it was.
Yeah,
that is really fun. That's a fun memory.
So, I like this idea of growing your garden and growing yourself.
Yeah. I think it's a really important thing to focus on for people. And I think, like, even if I use my garden as an example, when I first started gardening, I knew nothing. And I had this real specific expectation of what it should look like. So every plant that I bought, I would put it in a specific little pattern. I was told to buy it in 3s. So, of course, I would never buy 4 or 2 of something. I would just do exactly as I was told. I just had this perspective that since I'm learning, I have to do it exactly as I'm told. And I wasn't using my own energy to create it whatsoever. I was simply doing, the analytical expression of trying to grow this thing. Like, okay, this is a new hobby. I have to do this real specifically. And then as the years have gone, I'm just a lot more loosey-goosey. It's a lot more fun, because now I'm just doing it for the sheer joy of it. And it looks nice, but it isn't about looking perfect at all. It's actually all about the imperfection. And that is what it has taught me. And the great thing I think about this gardening in the spring is that you cannot do it year-round. There is a finite time where it is available and then not available. And so for me, I do have a little more enthusiasm, because I know it's a short window of time. Like, I take it more seriously because I know I only get this little window of time.
Yeah, you can't take it for granted.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things you said that I think are really interesting. Like first, you talked about how gardening has a season, and things grow, mature, die off, recycle, grow again. And I bet there's something analogous in personal development. Like, if you're constantly, or there's just like a cycle to it, right? There's probably, just like there's a cycle to the seasons, there's probably a cycle to personal development.
You know what? I have to tell you this. I heard this morning listening to a podcast that I thought this was fascinating to me, and I think it's perfect. It is personal development equals spiritual development. They're the exact same thing. And personal development, the only thing that prevents us from growing are the obstacles that we put in front of us to reach that state of growth, or to reach that state of spiritual enlightenment, or whatever it is that we're seeking, right? That never changes. That enlightenment state, or that development state, is always there. The only thing that prevents us is what we put in front of that, the obstacles. So like emotional obstacles that we put in place. Jealousy, embarrassment, envy, competition. Like those are all ego things that we are putting that prevent us from reaching this thing, right? So this is what I just loved as I heard about it. And it is a little like growing your own personal garden, your own emotional garden, because this is the way that it was described. And I always talk about judgment versus observation, but this was interesting to me. Judgment is when you seek something inside of you that you don't want to find. You seek something that you don't want, you don't like, and you don't want to find. So your whole energy around removing some obstacle that you find doesn't feel good because you're already avoiding it and not wanting it. However, observation, you go to it joyfully, because if you think about it like this, it's like if you observe something like, oh, every time I'm around this neighbor, I feel envious because I don't have that person's car, or that person has a better garden than I have, or whatever. That envy just creates in you this. It's a judgment that you can't get past, and you're constantly looking for comparison. But if you objectively look for something and you observe it, oh my gosh, there's this feeling. It is a very exciting thing, because once you see it, you can release it. You know, and if you go into it joyfully looking at that, it really does create opportunities for you to remove the obstacles. So I don't know. I heard that today, and it was such a beautiful way to describe our own internal view of something, and that prevents us from getting where we want to go. That
seems like a lot to think about.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty deep.
I just wanted to talk about how sunny it was. Melissa, come on. Making me think. No, it's great, and it's really interesting to think about, and the idea that we should take time during this season to like you said, take our own inventory and think about what's serving us and what's not, and maybe prune the garden a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, doing outside activities, whether it be walking on trails, or sitting in a hammock with a book, or going in your garden or something like that. Connecting with nature is an extremely important part about being a human being.
Yep.
And this is the time of the year where so much growth and newness is happening. It's a wonderful time to connect.
Yeah, I think the outdoors thing, the being in nature thing, I'm sure most people have heard that. It never gets old. It's so true. No. And it's so easy to sit in our offices and in our homes and our apartments and our condos and all of our interior spaces. But there is something very important about walking amongst the trees and feeling the dirt, and
that's right,
being part of, really, for me, being part of the thing you're from.
Yes,
which is
exactly.
the earth.
Well said. Really well said.
So if you isolate yourself from what you're from, it's not healthy.
Yep, exactly. So get on out there, you guys. Enjoy the beautiful time of year.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.